week after week, as she, has done well and established herself as a really good player on tour, they all come out to support her. And so I think we saw that in Australia when it was kind of overcrowded. They put her on too small of a court.
Jessica Pegula has done it. She has claimed the WTA Dubai Open title. And right in the middle of celebrating one of the biggest wins of her career, she showed exactly who she is as a person. She used that moment, that spotlight, for something bigger than herself. Instead of focusing only on her own success, she shifted attention to someone she believes deserves far more recognition and much better treatment. She spoke about Alex Eala, and she spoke openly. Pegula made it very clear that, in her view, Alex Eala is not just another young player trying to settle into the tour. She is a true rising star. She is someone who has already proven again and again that she belongs at the highest level of this sport. But here's the issue. The WTA does not seem to be treating her that way, and Pegula is not willing to stay silent about it. She raised a point that many people have been thinking about for quite some time. She brought up her own match against Eala at the Miami Open. She remembered walking into that match and being genuinely taken aback by what she saw. She had not expected that kind of atmosphere. The energy in the stadium was incredible. The crowd was huge, passionate, loud, and fully engaged in every single point. Pegula described it as insane in the best possible sense. She was not complaining. She was impressed because what she witnessed that day was a young player who had already built a level of support that even many top stars would envy.
Amazing. I mean, I played her when she kind of broke out last year in Miami, and I'm from there, and the whole crowd was against me, and I was like, what on earth is going on? Like, where did these people come from?
And this was not just something that happened in Miami. Pegula made that very clear. She explained that whether it was Miami, the Australian Open, or Dubai, Alex Eala has consistently drawn some of the biggest crowds on tour. Fans show up for her. They travel to see her. They stand in long lines just for a chance to watch her play. That kind of pull is rare. That kind of connection between a player and her audience is something tennis has tried to create for years in different parts of the world. Yet here is a young woman from the Philippines who has built it naturally through her talent, her personality, and her journey. But even with all of that, even with everything Eala has already shown, the WTA continues to place her on smaller courts. And Pegula does not just find that confusing, she finds it disrespectful. She pointed directly to the Australian Open, and what she described is hard to ignore once you think about it. Consider the situation. You have a player who, by many accounts, was bringing in some of the largest crowds the tournament had ever seen. You had fans traveling from across Asia, from the Philippines and beyond, making the trip specifically to watch Alex Eala compete. And when those fans arrived, ready and excited to support her, the WTA had scheduled her on a court that simply could not accommodate them all.
I think it was Eala is the match that I was looking at, and there was people like wrapped around the stadium just trying to get in, which is pretty crazy. And I mean, it's cool to see and it's exciting, but obviously, for fan experience, I don't know because I'm not living that same experience, but hopefully the event kind of continues to grow with.
People were left outside. They stood in lines that seemed endless, hoping for a chance to get in and catch even a moment of the match. Many never made it inside. They had traveled long distances, some spending significant time and money just to be there. In the end, they were left outside the stadium, hearing the noise of a crowd they could not join, missing a match they had come so far to see. And then Eala was eliminated. Those fans, who had invested so much just to be present, were left with nothing but the memory of waiting in a line that never moved quickly enough. Pegula spoke very directly about this. She called it disrespectful toward Eala, toward the fans, and toward the momentum Eala is building in the sport. What makes her words especially powerful is that she is not speaking from a distance. She is a player who has been on those courts, who has felt that atmosphere herself, who has faced Eala and experienced that energy firsthand. When she says something is wrong, she is speaking from real experience. She also revealed something that should have made major headlines. She said she had been told that the Australian Open recorded its biggest crowd ever, and that this record turnout was largely driven by Alex Eala. The largest crowd in the event's history, and the player most responsible for that energy, was placed on one of the smaller courts. That is not just an oversight, it sends a message and not a positive one. And Pegula is not the only one saying this. More voices have started to speak up for Alex Eala with each passing tournament. Novak Djokovic, a player who has won more Grand Slams than anyone in history and understands every level of the sport, also spoke out. He described Alex Eala as the greatest tennis player the Philippines has ever produced. He said she deserves full respect and agreed that her scheduling and court assignments have made things harder for her during events. When someone with Djokovic's reputation says that, the conversation changes. This is no longer just fans expressing frustration. This is a legend of the game, pointing out a pattern that cannot be ignored.
So things like that happen. I mean, it's you could argue that it was, maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule him on a bigger court. Yes, but again, she's so young and she's just coming through. Alex Eala, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever, tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's a big interest.
There was also the incident during her match against Iga Swiatek, one of the most dominant players in the women's game in recent years. At a crucial point in that match, just as Eala was gaining momentum, an official chose that exact moment to approach her about items in her bag. The timing, the interruption, the way it broke her rhythm at such an important stage, it simply did not make sense unless you start to question whether it was truly accidental. But more than anything, all of this highlights one clear truth. Alex Eala is not fading away. Every challenge placed in her path has made her stronger. Every questionable moment, every small court, every decision that seemed to hold her back has only made her story bigger and drawn more people to her. She is growing beyond the politics. She is rising above the tour's apparent hesitation to give her the stage she deserves. Jessica Pegula sees it, Djokovic sees it, Coco sees it, and millions of fans around the world see it every time she steps onto the court. The WTA can continue placing her on smaller courts, but there is nothing small about Alex Eala. Not her ability, not her determination, and certainly not her future.